Do you also get so annoyed by these like ancient mysteries propaganda videos with like the Voynich or Stonehenge, for example? Me too. In fact, these propaganda videos are one of the reasons why I started doing major deep dives on ancient monoliths. Definitely check out my stuff if you're interested in that. It's also one of the reasons why I looked into the Voynich. So there's a bunch of mythology sort of surrounding the Voynich, this sort of mystery that clouds people's understandings of our own relationship with language. By telling people multiple times with a bunch of like chordy music about ancient aliens, it makes us simultaneously think that we are better than everyone else, that we are alien, that we are special, and we created this thing that no one can figure out. And it also tells people we're so dumb we'll never understand ourselves. It's in my personal opinion, the worst, most insidious type of propaganda. And I will also say, like, the ancient aliens idea on the History Channel, you'll always see a professional in their field from a top university talking on these things. So jumping into the Voynich, I'd like to talk really quickly about magnification in the Voynich. I talk about this on my Substack as well. One of the reasons I believe that it's difficult for plant experts to just visually identify some of the plants is that they're depicted in a way that accentuate their traits, so the viewer can understand what the plant is. The most important traits are accentuated, and sometimes the plant is represented in multiple stages of its life. When it comes to trees, the buds are magnified, and they look sometimes like flowers, but really they're just buds of a tree. We can see this with the copper beech tree that I translated. That's on my Substack. But I want to talk about this identification that I came across recently with the poplar tree. So on this page, you'll see the root, the leaves, and the bud, but you won't necessarily see that in nature altogether for this tree. But this image is representative of the poplar tree. Now, how would I have known that without direct translation? I wouldn't have. I would never have ever figured that out if it weren't for direct translation through Modern Irish. So this is the taxonomy for this plant, and one of the things that stood out right away to me was the shape of the F or the P there. It doesn't quite look like an F or a P. I've described in other articles on my Substack this idea of the sounded hand, where if there's a combination of letters, sometimes they're combined. And this happens rarely in Irish, but there are rare combinations of letters. So we already see this in terms of suffixes in Irish. So several characters will be combined to form a suffix in the Voynich manuscript. So this, for example, is oct, this is act, this is ort. But they're a combination of characters, they're a combination of letters. And visually you can see that they're just kind of like visually combined. So what I noticed about this is that this looks like an F, but it also looks like a P, but it doesn't quite look like either of them. So something is being articulated there, and it's most likely more than one character. Because this over here, this is a P or an F. This looks more like a P or an F. But this is kind of curvy, and it looks sort of like a combination of a P and an L, which is a fada. It's tilted downward at a diagonal, which makes it look more like the fada or the L, which is this shape. So immediately I'm thinking FL, PL, or BL. And this isn't intuitive. Some of the things that come with like the sound of a sentence seems more intuitive, but this, when I'm looking at characters like this is entirely logic. I'm running through steps of logic in my head to figure out what this character is. Dropping the A, dropping the ah sound, we have POG, pog, and then we have BLOGDOCH, and then this suffix here. So I'm typing in, as best I can, different variations of this spelling into Tenglen directly. So I'm particularly looking for words that sound like plog, flog, blog. At one point, I think I typed in pogblog, and I got poiblog. Now in Ulster, this sounds like this.
Poblog.
But in Connacht, it sounds like this.
Pieblog.
Pieblog insinuates that there's another character perhaps before the BL, or there was at some point, which explains the G here. Pieblog. And when I saw that this was poplar tree, I looked at the different types of poplar tree. And there's one that has a suffix, essentially, or a descriptor for that poplar tree for trembling poplar, and that ends in chriatak. I couldn't find a pronunciation for chriatak, but what I'm reading here is poblagchak, which sounds like a little bit of a combo of poplar tree, trembling poplar tree. We also generally don't see the D slanted like that, so it's possible that that's representing the noise, the noise. I know this sounds complicated, but it's really not. It just takes a lot of time of looking at the language. Anyway, here's more poplar tree. Peace, I'm gonna go on a walk.